You're listening to the weekly Parsha Podcast with Ari Goldwag, recorded with Hashem's never-ending assistance in Ramat Beit Shemesh, Israel 5784, 2023. This week's Parsha is Parshas Lecha. There's a lot of interesting things in this Parsha. The topic that we're going to speak about, I'm sure, has been spoken about a lot this week, and it has to do with the battle between the 4 kings and the 5 kings, and Avraham, Abraham, being drawn into the battle in order to save his nephew Lot, who had been captured and brought into the battlefield, or brought somewhere, not clear exactly where. I'd like to share with you the Medrash that speaks about this topic, and the Medrash clearly connects this battle so many years ago, 3,700 years ago, the battle of 3,700 years ago, with the final battle that the Jewish people will face before the times of Mashiach, the advent of the Messianic age, which I believe we may be looking at right now. So the Medrash says like this: the Medrash brings a pasuk into Tehillim. I'd like to read it to you inside. The sword was brought out by the evil ones, and they shot their arrows in order to knock down the poor person, to slaughter those who go on a straight path. This is in chapter 37, verse 14 of Psalms. Their very own sword will come into their own hearts, and their keshet, their bow and arrow will be broken. So right away, what we see in the Medrash quoting this pasuk is we see, and as we'll see as we read the Medrash, that the purpose, why were they fighting? It seems like it was a war between the 4 kings and the 5 kings. What was the fight about? What was the battle about? Says the pasuk in Tehillim, the battle is about destroying Avraham Avinu. They weren't just fighting with each other in order to fight with each other, or it wasn't just a territorial dispute, as it seems from the Pashtus, the similar understanding of the pasuk, but rather there was a deeper thing that was going on. They were trying to destroy Avraham. They were trying to draw Avraham by capturing Avraham's nephew Lot. They were trying to draw Avraham into battle, as they did. But their plan was thwarted because Avraham was supported spiritually and physically by God. And therefore, their own sword, which they hoped to use to kill Avraham, to kill Abraham, that sword would go into their very own hearts. And their bow and arrow would be destroyed. Their desire to destroy us, to destroy the Jewish people at its inception, would be thwarted. And they would be destroyed. And it would be, as we'll see, it would be representative, imbued in our DNA, is this very battle of Avraham Avinu, of Abraham, which throughout the generations has been fought, and ultimately at the end of time would be fought again with a similar result. The Jewish people will be drawn into a battle, maybe is being drawn into a battle that's about their destruction. But who gets destroyed? Those who drew them into the battle, not the Jewish people. Bezrat Hashem, with God's help. So that's the Psukim in Tehillim, and let's see inside what the Medrash says. And now, the Medrash tells us that Rabbi Lezer ben Horkonos, who was a sage in the same time as Rabbi Akiva, in the period at the end of the Second Temple, when the temple was destroyed, almost 2,000 years ago, 1,953 years ago to be exact. Elizabeth Horkonos, he grew up in a family that valued work, hard work. They had fields, they had wealth. But Rabbi Elizabeth Horkonos himself, as the Medrash describes, I'm not going to read this part inside, but he himself went and became a Baal Tshuva. He went to learn in yeshiva. He became one of the greatest sages of all times at the age of 28 or 29. I'm not remembering exactly. It doesn't say that in the Medrash. But at a usually people go to learn when they're young these days. 16, 17, 18, a person goes to learn in yeshiva. But he started at an older age, but he became one of the greatest sages of all time. And he said the following statement. He darshan this pasuk, Hacherev paschu rishoim ze amrafel v'chaverov. The sword that was used by the wicked, right, that they started in battle. Ze amrafel v'chaverov. This is Amrafel and his friends. Those are the kings, the 4 kings and the 5 kings who were involved in this battle. Lahapil ani v'evyain ze loit. They came. What did they accomplish with their battle? They threw down. They caused the downfall of a poor person. That's a reference to Lot. Lot, the nephew of Avraham, wasn't as righteous as Avraham. He separated from Avraham. He went off to live in Sodom and Gomorrah, the most decadent location in all time. They were terrible, terrible people. They were involved in all kinds of averos, terrible sins. They kept their wealth for themselves. They weren't interested in any charity. It was forbidden to do charity in their place. Lot went there. He was poor. He didn't have mitzvahs. He didn't have the level of righteousness that Abraham had. Now, what was the purpose? L'tvoyach yishrei derech ze Avraham. In order to slaughter those who are straight on the path. Who did they want to get? Who did these kings want to draw into battle? As we said, it was Abraham. And in the Meforshim here it says, the Eitz Yosef says, She'ikar kavanosam eshvil loit kedei sheyavai Avraham doidei legaloi v'yipol biyadam. Why did they kidnap Lot? Why did they take him hostage? It was in order that Abraham, his uncle, would come and battle and try to retrieve him, to get back the hostage, and fall in their hands, fall in the hands of these 4 kings and 5 kings. So they wanted to destroy, and the Medrash later on this is the beginning of the 42nd section of the Medrash and Bereshis. In the fourth section, it says that one of these kings was actually Nimrod. Nimrod, although this isn't an explicit story in the Torah, Chazal, our sages tell us that Nimrod was a great king who unified the world against God. And Avraham Avinu, Abraham, in Ur Kasdim, which was the center of Nimrod's kingdom, Abraham preached about the one God of Israel, the one God of Abraham. And there was an awesome battle. Nimrod brought Avraham to be burned alive inside of a fiery furnace. Abraham miraculously was saved. But Nimrod didn't forget his mission. Nimrod's mission, as was his name, Nimrod means limrod, means to rebel, because he wanted to rebel against God. He wanted everyone to be united in the service of idolatry, which really means in the service of self, in their own egotistical unwillingness to serve God, but rather to try to take power for themselves. Nimrod never forgot about Abraham and Abraham's single-minded desire to bring people to service of God, to selflessness, to kindness, instead of selfishness. And so Nimrod was one of these kings, as the Medrash tells us later, one of these, the 4 kings and the 5 kings, and he was trying to draw Avraham there again to destroy him. First he tried to throw him in the fire, now he tries to destroy him with a war. So the Medrash says, their sword will come into their heart. That which they decided, that they tried to do, which was to bring him into battle in order to destroy Abraham, they themselves would be destroyed. The pasuk says that Abraham came in a night attack, and he was able to destroy them. Okay? So that's the Medrash. That's the Medrash. And it's an amazing Medrash, because it tells us something about Abraham and the battle that he fought, but we didn't yet see this is really the battle of the future. That's going to be in the next medrash. Let's see the next piece. This is in section 42, subsection 2, Beis. Pasuk says in Koheles, chapter 5, verse 15, it says that this is also a great evil. Anything that comes, so shall it go. What does it mean? Anything that comes, so shall it go. Amr Shmuel Bar Shilas kama da asa b'chalitin kenu azil b'chalitin. Just like, here I want to read the Eitz Yosef to you. Bechatifa v'gezel. Right, everyone's talking about the word Hamas today because the word Hamas is what the Gaza terrorist population calls themselves. The word Hamas in Hebrew means to steal, to kidnap, to grab. So the word here, chalitin, perish bechatifa v'gezel. Ratzon l'meshamon k'moshe bala adam bechatifa v'gezela kein yelech miyada bechatifa b'mehera. The pasuk in Koheles is saying that when a person grabs money, when a person grabs something, so if you take something that's not yours, someone else is going to end up taking it who doesn't belong to them either. Excuse me. Right, that's what it means. Kol uma sheba kein yelech. When a person takes something, when something comes to a person in an illicit way, it will be taken away from him in an illicit way. Says the Medrash like this, an amazing thing. That Avraham Avinu, the battle that he had with these 4 kings and 5 kings, it wasn't just a battle in that moment. Everything that occurred in Avraham Avinu's life was representative of something that would occur to his children in the future. Maisa avis milibanim. That which occurs and that which the great-great-grandparents, the matriarchs and patriarchs of the Jewish people, that which occurred to them was the blueprint, the DNA for all that would happen later. And just like Avraham had to face off with these 4 kings and 5 kings, the Jewish people in the future would also have to endure the Shibud Malchus, being under the boot of 4 kings, 4 kingdoms. And the Jewish people, in order to come, just like Abraham had experienced the Geula, he experienced the redemption by going there and saving Lot. He himself was redeemed. Exactly what that means, it's not so clear here, but I would say that in order for him, he had to conquer. This is how I would say it. He had to conquer Sodom and Amorah. Sodom and Amorah were the evil forces that existed in Israel. And these 4 kings and 5 kings were the evil forces of the world. Avraham had to, in order for him to accomplish his mission, in order for Abraham to bring the reality of one God, of the truth of reality that there is one God, and he created the heavens and the earth, and he's involved in every one of our lives. In order for him to bring that reality down to earth and to create a perpetual movement that would last for 3,700 years till today, he had to first destroy the forces of evil. He had to destroy the 4 kings and the 5 kings who were trying to fight against God. And he had to take Sodom and Amorah. He had to save them, tried to pray on their behalf, as we see later, that he tries to pray on their behalf. That's in next week's Parsha. And this is how he brings about the next stage of his purpose. And really the Jewish people, in a parallel way, have to go through the Shibud Malchus. Why do we have to endure the challenging and difficult situations of being under the boot of Egypt, of Babylonia, of Yavon, of Greece, of Rome, on through today? We're still under the boot of Rome and under the boot of Yishmael, who's really the 5th exile, which it doesn't speak about here. But why do we have to be under the Christians and under the Muslims? That's our job here. In order for us to get to the core truth, which is the revelation of Hashem in the world. So first we have to be under the boot of all of these negative societal influences. Imperfect. Christianity, Islam have certain aspects of truth. They took it from Judaism. But it's not a crystal truth. There's in Christianity they worship a human being, which is idolatry. And in Islam they believe that God is a taunting, horrific, angry God. And that's not the truth. These are distorted versions of what God really is, of what the spiritual realms really look like. And so the Jewish people have to go through all of these malchias and outlive them. Live to see their destruction. Perhaps even be involved in causing their destruction. In order for the light ultimately to shine, which is the light that we need to bring into the world. Is kedar la'omer melech elam v'sidal melech goyim amraf melech shinam ayoch melech halasur kach ein chosim el badal malchus malchus pavel malchus modai malchus yavan malchus edoim. Says the Medrash explicitly, just like there were these 4 kings there, so too there'll be 4 kings, 4 kingdoms. The Jewish people will need to break out of the shackles of those kingdoms in order to ultimately bring the light to the world. Just like Avraham was able to do that as well. Rabbi Pinchas B'Shem Rabbi Aibai Posa V'hema lo yodu machshavos Hashem. Rabbi Pinchas B'Shem Rabbi Aibai, in his introduction to this section of the Torah, he brought the pasuk in Micha. It says, they didn't know the thoughts of God. They didn't know God's plan. That God gathered them together like a geirin is a place where you take the wheat, you bring the wheat to, you smash it, you make it into flour. It's the place where you create the bread. You make the bread, make the flour and the bread. Hashem brings, right, just like if you want to make flour, you have to gather in all of the grains to the threshing floor in order to be able to do the job. Hashem, without their knowledge, and this I believe is what we see is going on right now. This is what's going on right now. Hashem is bringing, through the agency of the Jewish people, the people of Israel, the country of Israel, Hashem is bringing about a gathering towards the Middle East, towards Israel, of the European, American powers, and on the other side the Chinese and the Iranians and the Russians. But the center of attention, the center of the world's attention, is on Israel, and it's a coming together, it's a gathering on Jerusalem. Says the Medrash that the 4 kings and the 5 kings, according to this understanding, they weren't just coming, they were coming to battle each other. They didn't know. I want to read to you what the Yitzhak says. Remez al asifas amrav v'chaver b'mei Avram ki miyas Hashem neskabtzu k'dei lapilim b'yad Avram. Hashem brought them together specifically for the purpose of bringing them down in the hands of Avraham. And I don't think this is a contradiction to what we said before. In other words, in this understanding, the 4 kings and the 5 kings were battling each other. The battle was between them. Why? So that Avraham would come in and he would destroy them all. Says the Yitzhak, this is a hint. What happened to Avraham is what's going to happen in the future. He says they didn't understand what was going on at the time of Avraham. They didn't realize that they were being brought together in order to be destroyed by Abraham. Avraham needed to destroy the forces of evil that were represented by these 4 kings and these 5 kings. They didn't know that they were coming in there to be destroyed, for their spiritual power and physical power to be decimated in this amazing spiritual attack of Avraham. And so too in the future, they're going to come together. They're not going to know that the reason that they're coming together right now is to be destroyed. through the spiritual power of the people of Israel, of the Jewish people. That's the understanding of this pasuk. Now, what am I supposed to take out of this? How am I supposed to understand this? So I want to say something which I actually said most clearly in the Hebrew version of my Mashiach podcast, but I want to say it very clearly here as well. Hashem has a plan. Hashem is guiding the entire world, all of history. We can look over the last 100 years, we can look over the last 5,000 years. But Hashem is guiding all of history. Avraham, just like Avraham Avinu, Hashem guided, took all of the, put all the pieces in their place. Maybe they thought they were going to destroy Avraham, or maybe they just thought they were going to destroy each other. It doesn't matter. But all of the pieces were in place so that Avraham can come in, destroy the forces of evil, and his mission can explode. In the same way, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings every single action, every single event. He's moving it all. He's moving the entire world history towards a single goal, which is the destruction of evil, the destruction of all the false gods, whether it's the version of God which is the Christian version, or the version of God which is the Islamic version, or whether it's the false ideologies of atheism in China, or global jihad, or global domination of Russia, etc., or of liberalism. All of these isms and false gods are going to be destroyed in the end of time, because there's only one God. And there's only one people that represents Hashem. In the davening of Rosh Hashanah, we say, "Tein kavod la'amecha, tehila lirecha," give honor to your nation and hope to your people. We want the time of Mashiach to come. We say in the davening, we want an honor to be brought to the people. Why? It's not about us. It's really not about us. It's about the ultimate revelation of Hashem. Hashem revealed to the Jewish people 3,300 years ago through the Torah. What is the truth? What does spirituality look like? What does a relationship with Hashem look like? We have carried that message for 3,300 years. Really, it extended from before that to the time of Abraham, 400 years before that. But we have been bearing this torch, and the light has gotten distorted by the Christians, it's gotten distorted by Islam, and it's been distorted beyond imagination by liberalism, etc. The light has to be returned to its source. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, God, is lining up events. Everything, tick, 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 like they say in Hebrew. One after another. Everything is, all the check boxes are being checked off as we come to the final time where Hashem's light will be revealed. And it will be a difficult time. It is a difficult time already, and it will intensify as we get closer, and it's something that's going to affect the entire world. It's not going to be limited to Eretz Yisrael, to the land of Israel. But we will see ultimately, as the Medrash tells us in Yeshaya, Perek Samech, about the war between Paras and Arav, between the Persians and the other Arabs, or maybe it's the Gemara in Yuma. All that I did for you, I did for you. Everything that I did for you, the Jewish people. And there's no more Shibud Malchus after this one, the Medrash tells us. There's no more subservience to the nations of the world after the Persian War. Why? Because we will have reached a place where that which prevents humanity from seeing the truth, which is the light of Hashem as reflected through the Jewish people, that which prevents that light from being seen will have been destroyed. And we will have reached this place where Avraham got to, where he destroyed the 4 kings and the 5 kings. And then ultimately Sodom and Gomorrah are also destroyed because they can't handle the light that Avraham is bringing down into the world. I want to bless you and ask you to bless me. Hashem should help us, that we should be able to face these times with courage. We should be able to face these times with the knowledge of what the truth really is. And with the understanding that Hashem is behind every single thing that happens, every single moment, every single day, in everyone's lives. Hashem is in charge, and He's bringing Mashiach, the Messianic age. May it be speedily and in our days, and may it be with great rachamim, with great mercy. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful Shabbos.
This podcast was made possible through the gracious donations of listeners like you. For more podcasts like this, please visit www.arigoldwag.com or search on iTunes Ari Goldwag.